2023, live at 6. My name is Joe Jonathan. This is my associate, Carl Carlson. And today we have a special edition of Professional Gene Doping for you. With us we have Placida Lunga and Matthew Batista interviewing York U Lions head coach, Colin Inglis. Here they are.
Perfect. What procedures and practices are already in place in the CIS to deal with doping?
We have the standard procedures for doping in the CIS. So we have stuff like out-of-competition testing, we have in-competition testing, and then you could have a blind test where somebody calls something in and they come and test you on particular days what they can do as well.
Okay. And what can be done in order to improve the efficiency of the anti-doping system in the CIS?
I guess the big thing is money. Because the cost of how much the test costs, they cost anywhere between $300 and $500 a test. So it's a matter of having the budget in order to do that. So obviously, if there was a bigger budget, you'd obviously have more tests, maybe deter more. And then probably more out of competition or random testing would be the key for that as well.
Are the punishments for dopers severe enough to deter athletes from using performance-enhancing drugs?
I think it depends at the level they're at. If it's in the CIS, then yes, I mean, it's a lifetime ban in the CIS if you get caught. If you're looking at somebody who is outside of the CIS, then it may only be, depending on what it is, it may be a 3 or 4 month ban or a 2-year ban or something like that, or 4 years, but it's not a lifetime ban. So I think if you did have something that was lifetime right off the get-go, then it'd be a bigger deterrent for them.
Okay. And if gene doping was made readily accessible to athletes without the risk of being caught, what do you think that outcome would be?
I think the biggest challenge you'd have with gene doping is how do you know that the baseline test you have is accurate, that they haven't already been doing something, right? So you'd have to, maybe every child that's born, you'd have to have the gene the gene test or the baseline test done and go from there. But obviously I think it's probably a way that, sport is going to go. I mean, they do a lot of testing now and different things, and they do have a baseline, and they try to have a baseline and they can kind of detect, if there are any kind of abnormalities, in your test when they do it. So.
Okay. Any of the other questions?
Okay. So do you think the science of gene doping will improve athletic performance?
You saying that will gene doping improve performance, or will the testing?
Will gene doping help?
Well, gene doping. I think those that are cheating will always try to find ways to better performances. And if gene doping is the next way of going, then for sure it will.
Do you believe that gene doping can become a reality? So, is it realistic, and what type of time frame would you expect?
I mean, in reality, I think anytime people realize that something is in existence, it's probably been in existence for quite a while. So, I mean, gene doping may actually be happening now.
Do you think gene doping in the future will be detected?
Oh, I think so. I think with science, it's always a game right now between the scientists and, and we'll call them the chemists or whoever's altering, the athletes' their makeup, as they go forward. So it's always a race as to who needs who, and it's ultimately comes down to somebody dropping a hint or a tip somewhere, and that's how they kind of come on to what the latest technique that people are using for doping, whatever it might be.
Have you seen an improvement on performance-enhancing drugs or doping in general?
Enhancement in what sense?
When people take, when you've heard of people taking performance-enhancing drugs, have you heard them become better?
Well, I think that's always the goal of it. When they do performance enhancing, that they're always trying to get better. They're trying to get that edge. They're trying to cheat somehow. Does it always work for some? No. Or some of them more cutting edge? I mean, some people are still getting caught for drugs that Ben Johnson was taking back in 1988. So, it all comes down to who are your connections, who are your contacts, and ultimately kind of what is your budget, right? That some people may have, so they want to dope, how much money they have, and what are the connections they have, and can they go to, the limits of science as it exists now, and maybe they are into gene doping and they're doing those sorts of things, and there's maybe some who don't, and they're going to the regular drug, and they're talking to the guy who has the anabolic steroids, and they're trying to cheat that way is what they're doing with them, hoping not to get caught.
And last question, do you think gene doping will affect the Olympics or international competitions?
As I said, it's probably, if it is in existence, it's probably going on as we speak right now in sport. So, as we look at something, I think it's already there. It's just like technology. The latest cell phone you have, the latest TV that's out on the market right now, you can go buy in the store. that's probably already 2 or 3 generations old, right? There's other stuff that's already been developed and created. I think it's the same thing when you're looking at the, athletes trying to dope. They're already step light years ahead, and science trying to catch up and trying to figure out exactly what they are doing. Maybe they know what they're doing, but they don't know how to test for what they're doing yet.
Gene doping. The term gene doping is the misuse of gene and cell therapy methods in which genetic material in the form of DNA or RNA is inserted into a cell, an organ, or an organism. Athletes may use gene doping to strengthen a weakened knee or other damaged joints or injured tissues, which would give them a greater advantage when competing. Gene doping can also allow athletes to inject a gene that produces erythropoietin, or EPO, which would allow the body to naturally produce an abundance of red blood cells that would enhance athletic performance. In 2012, a survey from the Clinic Research and Biotech found that 77% of the people surveyed had already heard of gene doping before. As gene doping advances, there will be a greater focus on its capabilities and its prevention of use in sports.